Okay, right, record to the cloud. Yes, I'm recording now. Sorry, I'm doing the session again on Friday, so I'll try and start at the beginning then. Thank you for that.
Thank you. No, thanks.
My screen is a bit blurred and there's a lag. That's from Dimitri asking a question. I think I can pause my Dropbox. That might help. Hopefully that will help. No, Helena's got 2019. Should I reinstall with 2020? No, the differences are minimal between the versions, basically. You know, if you've already got 2019, yeah, there's hardly any difference that you're going to notice. So when you open Vectorworks, this is the screen that you will be getting, basically. So there are a lot of buttons on the screen. The things to remember.
Sorry to interrupt, but just if you are having a problem with the lag, sometimes if you turn off your webcam, that can be helpful, apparently.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, that's fine. Actually, that's better because I've got a big monitor which is above my laptop. So if I look at that, then I don't have to worry about it. Does that look better, everyone?
Yeah.
Good, thanks. Well, Sophie, thanks. So when you open it up, you get this drawing space, which is basically infinite. So as you zoom out, you can see at the top of the screen, it says 0 mil, 10,000 mil, 2,000 mil. As I zoom back in, you see 6,000 mil, 6,800, 6,900. So it's a kind of, you know, on Google Maps, when you zoom in and out, the scale bar changes to reflect that. That's the way to think about it. If you wanted to draw an entire city block, you would basically be able to do that. Actually, what I will just do is show you some recent projects. Oakhampton Road. So this is just a super simple London garden that I did the other day. There are 3 design options. So the way it works is that you have what are called design layers, basically. I'll just turn
Fiona, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, sorry, it's Lulu. Hi. I was just wondering. Hello, hi. I was just wondering, what were you using to zoom before? Were you just using the bar at the top?
The middle mouse button.
Middle mouse.
Yeah. So do you have a wheel on your mouse?
I'm not using a mouse. I've got a Mac.
If you've got a Mac, it's 2 fingers on a trackpad. Pull them in and out.
I see. Thank you.
Vertically on the trackpad. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. So you can see here, I've got these layers which are on the bottom right hand side. So I've got the studio, which is this building at the back, is on a layer, and the house and boundary is on a layer. And then I've got 3 sets of layers. I've got option 1, hard landscaping, planting, trees and plant lines. And then I've got the same for the other 2 design options. So I've basically just kind of built up my design essentially by drawing shapes. You know, most of the time you are just drawing shapes, which are on this basic tool set. And then the layers, you're drawing on these layers, they give you the option to turn stuff on and off. So say now I want to look at option 2, I turn off all of the ones for option 1, oops, and I turn on option 2, and you can now see, hang on, option 2 and that one off there. So you can now see I've got another design option up there. This is not my design, by the way, I'm drawing that for someone else, not terribly interesting. So you do all of your drawing on these design layers. You can see here that I've actually got what my client sent to me to draw up. Yeah, you can see the kind of things that if you're gonna, you know, there's loads of work if you get into Vectorworks drawing stuff up for other people, and you can see what you end up with. Some people, if they don't, you know, if they're not that fussed about being control freaky about it, or they'll just give you something quite rough, leave you to draw it up. So then you can just copy that. So you've drawn all this stuff on these what are called design layers, and then you put them on sheets. So if I go in the navigation palette here, you can see I've got plan option 1, which is my option 1. So at this point, I'm putting my labels on. So I've put my drawing on via the means of something called a viewport, and that applies, you can see here, the scale. I've got it at 150, 1 to 100 is obviously too small. So now, if you're hand drawing, you need to think, right, I've got a piece of paper and I need to make damn sure my plan fits on it. Otherwise, you know, you're going to end up bigger bits of paper, it might not fit your drawing board, be harder to get printed and more expensive. You know, here, I did have it 1 to 100 at A3 and I thought, oh, it's a bit small. So actually all I've done is put it 1 to 50 at A2. So, you know, you've got the option of changing the scale literally at the click of a button, and it's going to make it bigger and bigger or smaller. And I can change the paper size, and it's all really easy to do. So that is one massive advantage, obviously. And at this point, I've got my labels, I've got a North sign, the title block and so on, which you can customize. So I've got another sheet. So the sheets, when I'm doing SketchUp and Vectorworks, I always think of them as having a finished product. So for me, I get paid for doing these drawings. They're my end product. You know, you can end up faffing about on stuff you don't need to do. You know, it kind of focuses your mind that this is what you need to create. Just get on and create it, basically. What you can also do is bring in stuff from Google Images. So literally, you're just copying and pasting images in. You resize them. So I know some of you use InDesign, which is a really, you know, it's over-spec'd, I think, for garden designers, really. It's a great piece of software and stuff does look great. But again, it's one of those things that, you know, if you find it bamboozling, you know, you can just use PowerPoint or you can use Vectorworks. And this way, you get all of your drawings in one place. So if I are just going to stop sharing that, share screen. Now, you should... so if I just go, so these are the PDFs basically, so you can then export a package of PDFs, and those PDFs, these are the planting, mood boards, one of the other design options, and those PDFs you can basically send them to the printer, you can email them to the clients, you know, so they become your product. Make sure, where's my chat box gone? Right, oh, well, I can't find my chat box now.
Tina,
yes.
Quite often the chat box disappears behind your normal.
It does. No, I've got it. I've got it.
Your normal toolbar.
What am I using to zoom? Oh, sorry, Lulu. Yeah, no, I've answered that. Brilliant. So in terms of you guys kind of having a go at home, the things that I would say, you know, I'll kind of draw some basic stuff and talk through it just so that you can have a go at drawing stuff at home. There are some tutorials and so on the Vectorworks website. There is, I think it's called ArchiCAD, ARCHICAD, which is a New Zealand guy, and he has got quite a good website with loads of tutorials. I think some of them are paid. A lot of the time it's just, finding out there's something quite simple. If there's someone on your course who's done my evening course, then maybe you can bribe them and get their WhatsApp details or something. So you start with your drawing board, and let's say I am going to draw a cross section of a sleeper retaining wall. So I'm going to start with the rectangle tool. I can, you know, start anywhere, but actually where I'm starting is, you'll see at the top here it says 0, and down the side it where's that? So that's 0 there. So it's a sort of nominal center point, basically. It makes it easy for you if you sort of do this, you know, you need, and suddenly you've zoomed out miles. There's a button you can press, which is this one, fits page area, where it will just pop you straight back in at that 0, 0. So I'm going to draw my first sleeper with the rectangle tool. So you're clicking on the page and moving your mouse, and you'll see I have an X and a Y dimension attached to my mouse. Oh, actually, I had forgotten. Sorry, Sophie. Sophie's done my evening course. So Sophie actually does know a bit of Vectorworks. I bet she's kept that secret. I'm going to drop you in it there, Sophie. But actually, we could just set up another one of these sessions. I'm sure we'll have time. And frankly, it's not like I'm going anywhere. So, you know, if there are people that want to ask more questions, I'm sure we'll figure something out. So anyhow, I've clicked on the screen once, I've moved my mouse, I've not clicked again. So I've lifted my fingers off the mouse, and this is completely counterintuitive if you used other drawing software. So in that X value, I'm going to start typing a number and it's automatically going to appear in that X value. So I'm going to put 200, and I'm now going to press the Tab key. and that's going to flip me over into the Y value. You'll see that the Y value is a negative value. That is because it is going below where I click to start. So if you remember GCSE maths or O-level maths, you know, positive X number is X, the X-axis is horizontal, positive X is right, negative X is left, positive Y is up, negative Y is down. So it's just automatically put that to be a negative value. If I type a positive value, it will just flip it up. So I will just type 150, and now I press enter twice, and that has drawn my rectangle. So you will see in the object info palette on the top right hand side, the object info palette just tells you stuff about your shape. For some reason I've got half dimensions on my units, which I'll talk about in a second. So it says the width is 200, the height is 150. So I'm going to do that again. So I click, I start moving my mouse, I lift my hand off the mouse, I go 200, press tab, 150, enter twice, and that's now set that. Sometimes you will open a new file and it will come up in inches. You will notice at the top, do it. I think the blank documents default, yeah, you'll see up here it's like feet and inches basically, because it's American software. So if that happens, or you want to change anything about your dimensions, you go to File, Document Settings, and Units, and you will need to make sure that your units is in millimeters and your area is square meters. So that's these two fields here. You can see here I've got fraction precision on. I'm going to take off no fraction, and I'm going to have no decimal precision, so it's just going to be rounded millimeters. Press OK. So in terms of moving stuff around, you can just pick things up and drag them. So the simplest way is you're just going to click and drag stuff around the screen. One of the questions in my chat is about the circles. So circles work in a different way. There is a plant tool. So I'll just demonstrate the planting tool first. Plants are kind of a different object. They're not just a circle, because attached to the plant is information. So the information that is attached is stuff like the common name, the Latin name, the spread, the height, the pot size when you order it from the nursery. You can include a price, and other kind of like an SKU, a stock keeping unit, if you were a nursery. You can also set up a database with kind of maintenance notes and all kinds of information in. So whilst you can draw the circles, for now actually would be a great way just to get into using Vectorworks, you know, and not worrying too much about it. They do have a plant tool, and that is, I can go in and I've actually got some plants set up here already. Some of them you'll see are white, some of them are different colors. Personally, I quite like having them in colors. I know it's against the rules of both the colleges I teach at, but it does make it very clear. You can also, when you put it on your sheet layer, take the color off so they're printed in black and white. So yeah, you get your plants set up and you're literally just placing them on the screen, and there are tools that help you kind of group the plants together, and then they come up as a plant cloud. And then you'll turn on in the object information, tag display, put that on, make the text size a bit bigger. So yeah, you'll see that that comes up, it automatically counts them. I can do a plant schedule as well, and that will just say, right, so there's 4 euphorbia, there's 5 salvia, there's blah, 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 blah. You know, it will say euphorbias are in a 5-litre pot, the salvias in a 2-litre pot, you know, and you can then literally send that to the nursery and get a quote. So it automates that whole process. If you set up your database, you can then create reports, like a maintenance schedule kind of thing. You can also link this to Shoot Gardening and use their database. The database that comes with Vectorworks is quite American and doesn't have a lot of the stuff that you would normally expect to be using. But the Shoot Gardening site, which is great, and I think probably has a student offer on, I would have thought. So yeah, I don't know how it works. I can't say I've actually ever used it. Trees information. So Helen, I have trees information only in the plant tool, not plants. So the default plants, so say you've got your plant tool up. So these are the different modes. So the first one is a single plant. That you manually space them, and this one uses the spacing that you've set up when you set the plant up. So I'm just going to stick with the second one. So yeah, down here you will go to the Vectorworks libraries, basic template plants. Those are the built-in Vectorworks plants.
Can I just say here is one of the things that I'm not particularly keen about Vectorworks is they're rather naff designs for plants, but you can customize them, and there are some that are nice, but it is one of the things that I have as a thing that I don't find easy about using Vectorworks.
Yes, no, I would definitely not do that. I'm just trying to pull up my YouTube channel, which has got a playlist of 5 or 6 videos about creating plants from scratch. So I will just demonstrate super quickly. So you draw a circle on the page, you go to landmark, create plant style from selections, and this is in these videos. And so the information you'll have is your Latin name, Salvia caradonna. No, that's not quite right. So I'm going to paste that into common name. To the scheduled size is your pot size. Turn on the mass plants, creates the mass cloud. I'm just whizzing through this super quickly. So say 450 spread, 450 height, maybe. The spacing is the center to center distance. So I think, Melanie, you've asked, how do you put distances into the grouped plants? So the tool that I made that cloud with doesn't take any account of the distances between the plants. But when you use a different tool, which I'll use on this now, it uses the value you put in, and that value is the center to center distance. So at Capel, you want your plants just touching at the edge. And I know you've got this 9 centimeters and all that, number 9, the circle things. So if you scale them up, I think they're all at 1 to 50. So yeah, 450, so the spacing would be 450. If I set it at 400, there would be a 50 mil overlap between the plants. So I'm going to press OK. And so that is now a 450 mil spread plant. So I'm going to go and select that plant. Oh, I forgot to put the name in the plant. And if I now use this tool, you'll see that's used the spacing that I set up within the plant. These other tools as well, you're kind of just drawing an area of plants. So I'm going click, 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 and it puts the plants in automatically. The 5th one staggers them. I think these look really unrealistic. Personally, you know, I think it gives a much more naturalistic feel, and you can make some beautiful planting plans actually. What I should have done, I won't now because I'm sharing my screen, but I'll try and dig out, there are a couple of people in the last Vectorworks course who used colour, and actually they just looked great and quite artistic. Personally, I feel that when you've got a bloody massive trolley full of plants, 2 trolleys, and you're going through them and you're planting them off your planting plan, I think that having a very clear visual way, like using colour, makes it much easier to plant from. But, you know, that is obviously, I'm not going to say anything more because that's in contradiction to probably what you're told to do at college. But yeah.
I must admit, Fiona, on the colour thing, it's not one of the areas that I'm kind of militant about at all. I mean, we basically, what's my advice always to students is to be able to have a planting plan that you can photocopy in black and white, so that you're not kind of completely committed to colour photocopying all the time, just mainly because it's so much more expensive, basically. Yeah. So it's not really about not doing it. It's just about making sure that it reads full of information using black and white.
Yes. Home. Hold on. Oh no. No. What have I clicked? Back. Sorry. What's coming up there? So right. This is. Oh, I can put that. Ah! Is that me?
CavalierAthleteX.com.
Sorry, I'm closing that. Don't know where that was coming from. So that is the playlist, basically. So I just closed. I don't know where that noise was coming from. So that playlist has 5 videos, and it will talk you through exactly what I did. It will talk you through the plant placement tools, which, yes, thanks, Sophie. There, the plant placement. So tool sets kind of more advanced drawing tool set. So the basic is stuff like circles, squares, lines, moving stuff around. The tool sets are the more advanced. So under each of the little bits at the bottom, and you can, yours might look slightly differently. You can view them as text or as icons. But yeah, these things down here, so you'll see each one is like a subset of tools. So the first one is the site planning, and the first one of that is your plant placement. So you'll pick the plant from this drop down. Either it'll be a plant in your document, or what I have is a library of all the plants that I've ever done, and put, you know, they're all kind of there together in a big, slightly messy format. But then you can just pick them and put them on your drawing. Oh yeah, okay, stagger the circles, yes. So if that all seems too complicated and you just want to draw circles, you just click on the circle tool, you click on the page, and as you move your mouse, you'll see an L value. That L value is the radius. So it's not the spread of the plant, it's half the spread of the plant. So to get a 600 mil spread plant, I type 300 and I press enter twice. Now you could go copy and paste. So that's Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V, and then you would click and move them around. As you're moving stuff, you'll see here my mouse is automatically snapping to the edge of the circle. That is because I have got these snapping tools on. So if I turn them all off here, I move my circle. Say I want to move my circle so it's exactly touching the edge of the other one. Actually, I couldn't do it, even though it looks halfway accurate. If I put the snapping tool on, so now it says center left, and I can drag that, and it says center right, so it's touched the center right of the next circle, and I can see that they are exactly touching. So the snapping tools kind of allow you to line things up. The one next to that means that when I move something, you'll see it snapping to the vertical, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, it will do, yeah, 30 there, and horizontal. So that just, it makes it very easy for you to place stuff. You know, you could do this, you could stagger them and put them all here. So yeah, if you wanted to do that, then that is definitely another option. You could label them by using the text tool, which is here. I don't know, let's just put Camilla, or you could use a key. Let me just make that text a bit bigger. You know, so it's a slightly clunkier way of doing it, and you're not going to get really the benefits, particularly of using the planting tool. But yeah, I would say those videos on YouTube, you don't need a great deal of knowledge of Vectorworks to do that. Oh yeah, I'm not sure really if I need to cover that much else for Vectorworks. I'll just talk a bit about, I mean, you can do 3D in Vectorworks. I find, go on, Sophie.
What I was going to ask you, and it might not be possible, but it was really great seeing your, you know, the kind of work that you're doing. I just wondered whether you've got any more examples to show people, because I think it's that, you know, that just kind of picture of what things look like is really helpful in order to kind of understand really what, you know, these different drawings do.
Right, I'm going to dig out. Why that one's taken, come on. So this is a site on the, it's called the Craven Fishery. It's on the Avon Canal and River. So it's actually quite a big kind of master plan. So it's working with an architect, basically, quite a long-term project. It's on the banks of the river. So yeah, we had a site survey. There was a house. The architects just drew this ridiculous big house. The planners said, no way, Jose. They've come back again, so we've just dropped a new house in. So one thing you can do, so this is quite a big area, obviously, and it's looking, yeah, it's a master plan level. And then there's a zoomed in plan around the house. So these viewports that I mentioned, so you draw your drawing and you have your viewport. I can copy and paste that viewport. You know, I'm not going to put it on this sheet, but say I want to zoom in just go crop. So I double clicked it there. You know, you can change the area that you're showing. So let's just say I want to show the car park like that, exit the crop. I can make that area, you know, say much bigger, probably not quite that big. But say I wanted to show that alongside, you know, I was going to put it here and talk about, you know, the gravel surfacing or something really exciting. You know, you can kind of copy those viewports and change the focus on them. So this one here, all I've done is, it's exactly, the drawing is exactly the same. You know, I'm not drawing anything else again. All I've done is just chosen a bit to zoom in on, which is the important bit around the house. So then we're talking a bit more about the planting in detail. This is all quite vague because it's kind of planning phases. But obviously then you can show images. There's one here talking about the aquatic and marginal planting. So here, again, it's exactly the same drawing as that master plan, but you'll see some of the layers. So when it comes to the visibility, you know, I turned them on and off for that other file with the 3 options. It's on, it's off, or it's grey. So you can see here, these are grey. And actually, this is what I like doing with my planting plans as well, especially if it's in colour. Even in black and white, it means that you've got everything else is just muted. It means what you're talking about stands out really clearly. So what we're talking about is just this marginal planting. As it was, the planners were like, no way, you're not going to mess around with the riverbank. So we've kind of ditched that sheet. But yeah, it talks about, you know, coir rolls and all that kind of stuff. Again, a tree plan. So again, that's exactly the same sort of concept with the viewport, but other layers have been turned on and off. And here you can see stuff from the tree survey. Yeah, so we're just talking about which trees we're going to be removing, referring back to the tree survey, and then, you know, just having a very clear key basically of what the trees are and kind of what species they're likely to be. What else can I look at?
Can I ask you a question about that? How did you get that job? And why did they employ you to, you know, what was it about that job that they wanted a really kind of smart drawing?
So this job, so when I first graduated from college, I worked for a guy called Adolfo Harrison, who is just brilliant. You should check out his work. He used to be an artist, fine artist. He's got a fine art degree. He is he's just got a lot of integrity with how he works, and he's never chased money and show gardens and stuff. He just does really great, carefully considered work. And he went to college with this guy called Will, who is posh and slightly shambolic, and he's a kite surfer, and he runs a landscaping company, and his admin is appalling, and he gets me in to do these projects. But because he's posh, he gets to meet all these swanky clients and architects and stuff. So that job came through him, and he's working with the architect, and Will gets me in to do all of his drawings and sort out all the detailed bits. Yeah, happy to, yeah. So yeah, how do I get my work? Shall I talk about that generally, Sophie?
No, I was just really wondering about the kind of, so the drawings, would he kind of put his, because you were talking earlier about, you know, if you're just doing your own work, you don't necessarily need a particularly smart drawing, do you? Whereas if you're putting work out to tender, or you've got to have some kind of relationship with the planners and that kind of thing, that's the kind of situation that you're going to need, you know, these type of very kinds of, you know, lots of different options and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I have to say now I do a lot of work with architects, and so I get the site survey will come through the architect, and so you really have to be on it, because their drawings just, you know, sometimes they're wrong as well, and you know, but they're generally of a very high standard and a very high level of accuracy and detail. So you kind of have to step up for that. But they're a great source of work, and it's a pleasure to work with, because you know that all the drawings are correct, and you don't have to go and site survey it, because personally I absolutely hate doing site surveys. Massive pain in the backside. So this is another master plan project. So again, these huge projects, quite often these bigger projects, they are, you know, completely renovating the house at the same time and making quite a lot of changes. So again, this will have zoomed in bits, you know, showing the more formal aspects. what that is. Oh, okay. And then, you know, some setting out drawings and so on. And then within the set, I'm not sure I've got any other, what I could do with this construction drawings. Yeah, because what I would normally do is, so you've got your design layers with everything on. I'm not sure I've got any construction drawings. Let me just have a quick. I tend to take everything off my computer and put it, I use all Dropbox for my files. Yeah. They're great. No, I mean, drawing construction details is basically the same thing. I mean, you're just drawing, if you think of drawing a construction detail, you're basically drawing lines and shapes. You know, there's a tool called, if I just go back here, the polyline tool, which is this one here, the polyline tool, and you can choose whether you have straight or curved lines. And again, you're just, you know, so if you're drawing, I don't know, a concrete footing or something with a sloping top, you would do that. You know, you can type in the dimensions as you're moving along. So say, yeah, 400.
Sorry, Fiona.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, how long does it normally take you to do these drawings? Say one drawing, not obviously all of these that you're doing.
I did all of these yesterday. So
all of them?
Yeah, these three options and the mood board and the mood
those
board.
ones, okay.
They were probably the longest bit, trying to find the photos of things.
Yeah.
I'm
just wondering what
4 hours,
your clients
4 or
expect.
5 hours, probably.
Okay. Right.
So yeah, I normally bill my clients by the quarter of an hour. I should probably round it up to the half an hour.
Oh wow.
But I keep a timesheet on Google spreadsheets, and I'm like, you know, made the amend to move this pool or move this or whatever, and just write down what I do, and then I just send them an invoice and refer them back to that spreadsheet.
Okay.
Sometimes I quote, because the clients that I work for, I generally work for ages. So these are the drawing clients rather than any design stuff. And actually a lot of my design work comes from landscapers. And because I work with them for ages, they trust me just to invoice them. But sometimes I quote up front. Which actually in a way is much easier, because then you have far less admin to do, and my admin is fairly terrible. So it's actually much nicer just to go, right, that's 500 quid, boom, done, invoice for 500 quid, no faffing about. That
okay,
also,
that's really helpful.
Yeah, that does have the downside in that I'm quite optimistic. So I'm always like, oh, this isn't good. I went to the allotment this morning, you know, 1:45. I'm like, oh my, you know, me and the dog are running back from the allotment with mud all over my knees and, you know, coming to eat my lunch really quickly. You know, I completely underestimate how long things will take. So actually, you know, being able to bill more accurately in that regard is quite helpful. But I'd probably pull my socks up, I think, if I knew I was more limited, because I'd set a time on it.
Thanks.
So I might move, shall I move on to SketchUp?
Yeah, sounds a good idea.
Brill. Oh, Melanie's on, any time to go through the layers in more. Yes, I will just talk about the layers. If I go back to the design layer and let's go back to this project. Put them on. So yeah, the layers basically stack up on each other. Is probably the best way to describe it. So if I turn that one off there, so if I start turning on other layers that are above this, so you'll see this column here has got the hash thing at the top. So I could drag these layers up and down. You'll see when I put my mouse in that column, if I drag the house and boundary down and the studio down, you know, they will actually, you'll see now I've lost the door to the studio underneath the hard landscaping layer. So if I move that up, the doors come back up. Again, the trees, if I was to move the trees down, they become hidden behind other things. So it's just worth bearing in mind that they stack up. So yeah, you have to be on a layer. You automatically get design layer 1 when you start the software up. Design layer 1 has actually got the PDFs from the architect on it. I think the hard landscaping layer, which I put those on. Oh, okay, so those are actually in the studio layout. I mean, I could delete them or just move them. They're just the sketches of the 2 options. So yeah, you basically, so if I turn them off, turn them back on, so you're just kind of just building your drawing up with these different layers. My average drawing, so this one, I didn't want to set up 3 different files for 3 different options of what is quite a simple garden. Generally, if I go back, I think this one is probably, so we have got a site survey at the bottom. The stuff, these just 5 are just from the client with amends and kind of scribbly bits on. So he's got, which is actually great, he's got an iPad, so you send him stuff, he draws on the thing on an iPad, he sends it back to you, arrows and pictures and stuff, and it's great, it's incredibly clear. So the grass is a layer at the bottom. Then it's hard landscaping, buildings, soft landscaping, utilities, features, you know, furniture and so on, trees, if I put them on, and a few bits and pieces, levels and so on. So you're just thinking like in Photoshop, and they all stack up, you know, think of it, you're drawing on transparent bits of paper and they all stack up. Also, it keeps your drawing organized. So if I go to the trees layer, the shortcut for select all, which is the same in all bits of software, is Control A or Command A. So in that, if I press that, it's automatically selected all my trees. If I was doing a planting plan, you know, all my plants, I'd have a layer called planting plan, and all my plants would be in one layer. So it just kind of keeps it all organized. If they're not split into layers, say I'm trying to select, you know, a stepping stone or this pergola thing, it's difficult to select it because you're going to be accidentally selecting the path, and then this bit of plantings in the same layer, you know, they're all together. So it keeps your drawing organized. It also means if you're working with other people, as I do with some of these projects, you're sharing the same file, you know, a consistent organizational structure is just good practice. It makes, you know, everything's neat, and like filing, you know, it's all neat and easy to find. You can, and there are people who just draw everything all together. Just makes it a right pain in the backside to use. So hopefully, any more questions on Vectorworks? No, cool, right. I am going to look at SketchUp. Oh God, what I was going to say, you can do 3D in Vectorworks. There are built-in features. I will just see if, so I mean, it is kind of as simple as just changing your view. So yeah, you'll see here, so there is stuff in Vectorworks that, you know, there's kind of like a warehouse of stuff. So like the furniture, if I just put that back on top plan. So we're looking at these cars and tables, which are kind of come with Vectorworks, part of, you know, you can just use them in your drawings. And I put this 3D view on. You know, they automatically have 3D information, and you know, there is an element of it being as simple as just drawing stuff and pulling it up. Personally, I don't like the graphical finish you get. The way SketchUp works, which I'll talk about in a second with regards to being able to put it into Photoshop, makes it quite easy and quite flexible and easy to create quite cool effects. I found Vectorworks very clunky. An example is if you're doing a planting plan in Vectorworks, you're spacing your plants out sensibly because it is a planting plan. When you view it in 3D, you end up with kind of clumps of plants rather than a big mass of planting. That meant that you then had to create a separate planting plan for your 3D view. So for me, it wasn't saving any work particularly. Oh, hold on, I've just got to let the dog out. There you go. Right, sorry. So yeah, it does do 3D. To me, it's not great. The finish isn't as great. It's just not fun. It's really detailed, basically. You're constantly having to kind of select elements and then, you know, look in the object info, and you know, there's just a lot of kind of planning, as opposed to if I now move to SketchUp. Just open a blank file. I'm going to quit that. Dog's just gone to lie in the sun in the garden. I'm afraid you don't get to meet the dog. Some of you might have met the dog. I know Sophie's met the dog. She's met the mascot.
I must say, Ellie is a bit of this, was the star of our Christmas party.
Oh yes, and Banzai.
Banzai, there was a bit.
Oh no, he's in the mess. So when you open SketchUp, so you should have got the link to SketchUp. I think it's about 50 quid, wasn't it, for the student version of SketchUp? And SketchUp Pro is great. You know, you again get this infinite space. So I'm zooming in and out with my mouse wheel, and I'm clicking down the mouse wheel, and that invokes this tool, which is the Orbit tool. So you get this kind of infinite space. They always give you a member of the SketchUp development team. So you'll notice different versions get a different member of the SketchUp development team. So this guy, his name is Mark. So the entity info thing will tell you about what you've got in your model. So SketchUp is kind of simple as if you get the rectangle tool, you know, you're drawing in 3D, you can push and pull. So I'm going to draw Mark a giant house. And you can draw, right. So I'm using the keyboard shortcuts. So the same in Vectorworks, if you hover over any of the tools, yeah, so you'll see rectangle R, circle C, the line is L. I mean, I kind of use them without thinking now and then I forget. So I'm going to draw a line there, select the line, use M for move, and I can move it up. So you'll see that SketchUp has these axes. So you'll see on the left down here and behind there's a red and green axis and the blue axis. So when you're moving things or drawing, you'll see it's locked in now on the blue axis. So I know that's gone vertically up. So the axes are very important because you can just end up, you're in this weird 3D space, you can end up kind of, because you're only looking at it from one plane, moving things in the wrong way. So in terms of kind of drawing stuff, and then there's the push and pull tool, so I'm slightly push that in to make a door. You know, it's simple to draw, it's fun, you know, you're just, you know, it's an enjoyable bit of software to use. This button here, if I just go to the 3D warehouse, I will put in plant, is that going to work? So the 3D warehouse is basically a fairly comprehensive, as it sounds, a warehouse of models basically that you can take out and use for your own designs. Some of them are perfect. There's loads of other ways of getting them. So let's say this one, I'll just click it, load it into my model. Take a couple of seconds to download it. You can also create your own login. You can have collections of models. So, you know, your favorite grasses, your favorites, whatever furniture, you know, tables and all that kind of stuff to put on tables. And you can build that up and that will be linked to your user account. So I'll just let that download and that should then come in attached to my mouse. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Yeah, and now I just click to place them. So I could scale them up. Let's say my house is quite big. And I move them around. You know, so it's easy to draw something fairly simple. Even the more complex tools, you know, there's a level of complexity, and beyond that, you can basically draw anything you like, and it's quite fun and enjoyable. I'm just going to delete that one. It's a bit slow. So the way SketchUp works is it renders by using edges, and an edge is kind of one straight line. This gets slightly complicated because it draws straight lines, sorry, curved lines with a selection of straight lines. So you'll see these leaves, although they look curved, they're actually made up of loads of straight lines. And the reason that this zooming is feeling really clunky and slow is because those edges, every time you move, it's redrawing them. So I'm just going to delete that, which is just going to make that a bit quicker to move around in. So let's say this, I can actually, maybe I'll just show you a model here. And I'll turn on some plants and trees. So this model, sometimes what I do is I put stuff in Photoshop. What am I going to find? So yeah, how you do your model kind of depends on how you're going to do your post-processing, really. So this one, I have been using a tool called V-Ray, and I'm not really going to talk about V-Ray. But once you get good at SketchUp, it's basically a plugin for SketchUp that allows you to do photorealistic rendering, which looks like, put that open. Let's close some of those. Sorry, those are some construction details from Vectorworks. So yeah, you can see how you're just there as a crop of the viewport, basically, and you're just showing the area that it relates to. Then there's a cross section of the water feature there. Now, so I'm just going to try and find evening. Right. So yeah, V-Ray basically allows you to create quite realistic things. So what V-Ray does beyond what SketchUp does is allows you to put texture on things. So these bricks, actually you'll see that the shadows are falling on the bricks. You know, the plants, the detail on the planting, there's a texture. So it's kind of affecting how light hits things, basically. I did have, which I don't think, no, sorry, I haven't got that saved on my computer, but yeah, you can put stuff on the table like glasses, you know, drinking glasses, and the light will refract through them. The shade looks really good. So it kind of gives you even more of a realistic feel. Let me just go back.
So Fiona, may I ask a question about that? Do you do it up in SketchUp and then you apply your final drawing to V-Ray?
So with this, I would set up the view that I want to show, and then I would go to extensions, V-Ray. So these green blobs are trees, and they render within V-Ray. Right. So I would go extensions, V-Ray, and V-Ray rendering, and I would go render, and you set it up to be like a 2000 pixel wide image or whatever, and then it just chugs off and does its own thing.
Right.
So another option, I'm just gonna get rid of that.
Sorry, Fiona. Do you have to purchase V-Ray or is it free?
Yes, you do. I think I got an educator's discount, and I think it was 70 quid.
Okay.
But it's definitely cheaper for students.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, Fiona. Is there a plan view you can do via SketchUp? Is it only 3D?
So in the same way that Vectorworks does 3D, and you know, it's, I think, not that good. SketchUp, you can do a plan view. The way you do a plan view is you click this button here at the top, which are these kind of predefined views. So that's an overhead view. I then go to camera, parallel projection. That is my plan view. SketchUp does have something that comes with it called layout. And you can send your model, I need to save it somewhere. Save that. If I then press send to layout, it sends it to this other bit of software called layout, which will then put it on a piece of paper. And again, it's just about to ask me, choose, A3 landscape. So this is this drawing on an A3 landscape piece of paper, and I can choose to put it at 1 to 100, you know, and then you could annotate that and put labels and so on. I mean, my issue with it is that well, first, it's nowhere near as powerful as Vectorworks, and it's nowhere near as accurate. You know, although you are, say I draw my rectangle, if I just move that out the way, you'll see at the bottom of the page, bottom right, it's 40048483. If I type 4000, 4000, it's a 4 meter rectangle. So it's sort of accurate, but it just not quite as accurate as Vectorworks. It doesn't have the planting plan. It doesn't have stuff like, you know, the hatching and some of the other tools in Vectorworks. Like you can say you've got 300 by 600 mil paviers. You know, you can set up a hatch to do that all for you automatically. You can move that around so you can lay out the paving exactly. You know, it's a much more detailed tool basically, and a much more powerful tool. This to me, you know, you're always drawing in 3D. It's a 3D piece of software. It's also called SketchUp because it was originally developed by Google to allow people to populate Google Earth and to allow people at home to create, you know, a model of their house or their favorite building or whatever and get it into Google Earth really easily. So it's kind of a rapid prototyping tool that more and more stuff has been tacked onto. It works as a, you know, it kind of works getting it into layout. But again, I think once you're, you know, if for your own projects, yeah, using layout is probably not a bad idea. And it's certainly an interim state between Vectorworks and SketchUp. But I think it's not as, Vectorworks and SketchUp, but it's definitely not as powerful as Vectorworks. Does that answer your question?
Fiona, can I ask, how do you do layers at all or not?
You do layers. So if I just go back to that other, I'm just going to open that other file again. So the layers don't stack up on each other in the same way. You just use them to turn things on and off. So here I've got plants, and they're all on a separate layer basically because they make the model quite slow. You know, when you start moving around, it just takes ages because each time it's going to re-render it. So generally,
Fiona, where do you find the layers? I've never used SketchUp Pro.
If you can't see them, go to Window and then Layers. Layers should be ticked.
Ah, okay, great, thank you.
And to set up a new one, you just use the plus sign. So yeah, the way you use layers in SketchUp is basically stuff that you want to hide and you'll turn them off, you know, like the studio at the back. When I took that view looking up the garden, you know, I actually hid the studio just to kind of fudge it a bit. Because if I'm standing here and I want to see this paving at the bottom, you know, I didn't really want to see the doors particularly, so I did that. The most important thing in SketchUp, so when I created this thing, what I didn't do was make it a group. So the way to draw in SketchUp and the way that I normally do is you go File, actually I will show you this because this is probably quite useful. File, Import, and I'm going to find a PDF, custom drawings, concept, and let me just bring that one in. So you import a PDF and, or not, I don't know when that's not worked. And it should come across, it should come in attached to your mouse. I'm not quite sure why that's not working. Oh. Uses image. Oh, that's not good. Let me just try and find another one there. Yeah, so what you would generally do, and I'm not sure I've really got an example of it here, is you would bring in a PDF and you would draw over that PDF. Let's see if I can find a different. No. I'll bring this one in. File, import. Oh, there. That's a bit better. So you bring in your PDF. I've just swapped to a different version of SketchUp. So let's say I now need to resize this PDF. So what I would normally do is draw over the PDF. There are a couple of things that I'm going to do first. The first thing is that I can see that that is really blurry. If I go to SketchUp Preferences and OpenGL and, interesting, use maximum texture size already. You need to make sure you use maximum texture size is on. Well, I'm not quite sure why that's blurry, but we won't worry too much about that. And then you need to resize it to the correct dimension. So let's say that I know that this distance here is 5 meters. So along this kind of planting bit there. So I'm going to click here and click here. I type 5,000, press enter. Do I want to resize the model? Yes. And it will now resize that on the basis of that being your known dimension being 5 meters. What I would then do is start drawing over it. And the quickest way to do that basically is to put the transparency on, which is here, and just use the kind of the rectangle tools basically. And just start, just start drawing like that. The joy of using, if you're just going to use SketchUp for visuals, there's no need to be that accurate with it, because a kind of a 10 mil difference, 20 mil difference here and there, you're never going to see it. So I'll just show you some of the other. So this is again SketchUp and Photoshop. So this is a slightly different technique in that this planting here, they're actually photographs of planting. Let's see if I can find yes. Hopefully. I'm gonna have to put my Dropbox on. Yeah, I'm not sure because I keep all of my files on the, let's see. Oh, that one. Not sure I'm going to be able to get the actual files. Yeah. So yeah, you can kind of put some of the planting into Photoshop and some of it into SketchUp. So some of this shrubby stuff here is done in SketchUp, and then some of the other stuff I've brought in Photoshop. And the same here, I found a nice image of these apple trees. So I created the building and the greenhouse thing and the hedge in SketchUp and the gate. And then the rest of it, I just sort of brought it in Photoshop. And then I kind of there are ways of giving it kind of like a watercolory feel or a pencil feel. So you can do that, and that kind of just blurs the edges enough just to kind of take away the imperfections of people. I mean, it's not, if you look carefully, it's obvious that you've kind of rubbed bits of this tree away, that the background is different. You can see the light reflecting on the branches that shouldn't be there. But actually, by the time you've given it that kind of feel to it, yes, so there you can just turn on this. Sorry, right. So I moved into Photoshop. So yeah, I started with a site photo, which is this, and I kind of just tweaked it a little bit just to clarify the water and get rid of a few bits that I didn't want. And then I brought in some of the aquatic planting, which actually I did in SketchUp. And in SketchUp, you can turn off the layers that you don't want to use and then export them. Hold on, I've just noticed a couple of questions. V-Ray, difficult to learn. I'd say learn for SketchUp first. There's a load of really weird, complicated settings to do with lighting. I really like how the materials, how they diffuse the light, and you can add all this texture and stuff to it. It's a bit fiddly. Alex, I got a computer science degree, which probably helps, but I don't think that you should let that put you off. I don't think it's been any advantage here. I did London College Garden Design in 2011. How much did I need? So when I started work after college in 2011, I was paid £10 an hour and I was on working tax credit. So I basically didn't know that much, but my salary reflected that. But obviously I learned a lot from being there. So it wasn't, you know, in return for me doing drawings for him quite cheaply that took me ages, I got to learn about the workings of the garden design practice and a lot about design. So it's a really, how much to charge if you're going to do them for other people is a really tricky thing, I think. Well, how much to charge generally is a really tricky thing. I think it's kind of what you feel comfortable with, you know. The more you do, the more comfortable and confident you'll feel with. When I first started working with Arpex, you know, I was just like, oh my God, this is just a nightmare. I'm never going to be able to do it. But now I feel confident of being able to do it. So I think if that's the route you want to go, I'd say trying to get some work in another practice where you've got someone who's going to give you that in and they've got the confidence that, sorry, Ellie's trying to eat a fly at the window, that, you know, that you're working with them, they've got an established relationship with the architects, they've got your back, basically. You know, that's really helpful. And then as you get more and more confident, you'll kind of feel more able to strike out on your own. And I think it's kind of the same with pay and money. You know, when you're starting and you're not that confident, your pay will reflect that. But as you get better and better, you know, you'll be able to charge more because you are absolutely confident you can deliver a really solid solution to your client, and you're, yeah, you know, what you charge will reflect that, basically. So hopefully that helps. Like going back onto this, so these plants are from SketchUp, but because there was a slight discrepancy, obviously I've got this site photo that I want to use in the background. You know, you can see kind of I've deleted bits and you're kind of moving stuff around in Photoshop. And there's a layer here just slightly muting some of the colors because, again, SketchUp is quite bright. A few bits and pieces, that's fine. So the tree, yeah, the tree at the foreground. So if you're in Photoshop and you want to bring stuff into Photoshop, the things you're looking for in terms of plant material is a PNG file. So actually, I'm just going to here, 2D plants, transparent PNGs. PNGs are transparent. They are the only image type that retains their transparency. So you're literally dragging stuff into Photoshop. It comes in, it's transparent. You're like, great, I'm going to put that in front of the tree. Make it a bit smaller. You know, and then you would, so you have to rasterize it, which kind of allows you to use it in Photoshop. And then you might just delete the bottom bit here, you know, so it can be quite, you know, obviously, well, some people do bring in, there's a girl called Helen Sanders. If you look on the London College of Garden Design website, Helen Sanders, she was one of the student award finalists. Her background is graphic design and she would build just beautiful images basically by doing this, you know, so layering stuff. So Vectorworks layers, you know, are quite functional. SketchUp, you just turn stuff on and off. But Photoshop, you're truly like stacking these things, you know, up on top of each other, and you can build really rich images by doing that. And obviously some of them, as I hope I've shown here, can be photos. Some of them you can put like a watercolory text on. Some of them, yeah, they're kind of pencil texture. You know, the options once you start, that's what I said to Sophie. So here again, this is a kind of a watercolory thing, you know, so you're giving them a softer feel. And once you've yeah, once you start getting stuff into Photoshop, it's like a whole nother level, basically. All the gaps that you can't quite manage to do, you can't find the right plant. The client really wants to see, I don't know, you know, a particular Miscanthus sinensis, blah, 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 you know, and you can't find it. You can bring that in Photoshop and start building your drawings up that way. Let's try and see. Oh yeah, so this is just that's one of those images, slightly more, but I mean actually the original image is that, which was the render from SketchUp, and then I've just brightened bits of it so you can see the shadow was a bit dark. That's a kind of watercolor filter, a bit more, just soften the edges up a bit more and then knock the saturation back a bit. So I think SketchUp is great, but you know, if you're taking that straight export from SketchUp, it doesn't generally look as good. V-Ray makes the exports look better, and then you can kind of tweak them in Photoshop as well. No, right, Ali, if an image is in PNG, can you transfer it? No, you can't. You have to like manually rub out the background, which is just slightly torturous. I'll just find. Let's say, I don't know, Apple, just like an argument. So let's say that one. You know, if you found an apple tree and you're like, I really want to use this image, it's, you know, perfect. Now you can wait for it to load. Yeah, so if I copy the image, go File, New, and then Photoshop will automatically go clipboard and it will put it in at the right size. Paste that in. Now what you would have to do is, and this is why it's useful using transparent ones, either you're going to manually rub stuff out or you can use kind of the magic wand tool and start kind of selecting the bits, and then you're going to create your own transparent PNG basically. So it's much easier to find them transparent in the first place. How did I blur it all? So there are different bits. There are either in Photoshop, filter gallery, you know, you can have these kind of artistic filters, basically dry brush, film grain. You can stack those on top of each other as well within Photoshop with the layering, or apply several filters. There are bits of software. One of them is called Sketcher, which I don't know whether it is on PC. Sketcher. Use the V-Ray chat. Can I? Sure if that's going to work. Yes, it is. Right, so you can, I don't know whether you know that, but one of the great things about a Mac, and one of the reasons that I like Macs, is that you can just drag stuff around. So I drag that image, otherwise you'd have to save it on your desktop and so on. But Sketcher has got a watercolor feature. So you'll see a lot, once you know it, you'll be like, oh, that's how they did that. I can't remember who it was. Someone was emailing me recently asking about graphics, but a lot of people use Sketcher. And actually it's just a nice quick way of, you know, you can change the saturation, you can make it a bit brighter, and it's a nice quick way of kind of adding a softness to it. I think having a softness is better than being too photorealistic. There's always going to be someone that's like, oh, well, your visuals show this, but actually it's this. You know, why is that? We thought we were going to get a green plant there. Instead, you've given us a yellow one. Yep, Sketcher, exactly this, Sketcher. And you should be able to get through the App Store. I think it was like 10 quid or something. Photoshop course, is that? The differences between paid for and free SketchUp. Oh, right, hold on. Plan view from a 3D version. So I'm sorry, I've missed some questions. So plan view from 3D. The plan view is you press this button, which is standard view. So it's camera, standard views, and top. But they may also be, this set of buttons is your shortcut thing. And then if you want it parallel projection, you'd have to put camera and parallel projection. Right, paid for and free SketchUp. The free SketchUp now is online. If you want to get a free version of SketchUp, it is called SketchUp Make 2017. So when they made SketchUp free, they have made it so that it's totally online. I find it really clunky and horrible to use. The last free version of SketchUp that you could download to your computer and basically looks the same. They always say they update it. You know, it's hardly any difference at all. If you put SketchUp Make 2017, Make is the free version, you'll get to this page downloading older versions, and you will want to get this SketchUp Make. So Pro is the paid for, Make is the free. The two, apart now, the difference is that the free one is online and it's horrible. It used to be, there were a couple of different, one of them is importing DWG files. The DWG is AutoCAD files, and actually that can be quite useful. The other one is geolocation. You can geolocate your models within SketchUp, and you would sort of get a terrain. Let me add location. You kind of will then be able to see the surrounding terrain, which it is really cool. It sounds really cool, but the reality is it's not particularly useful to do. Turn my Dropbox off again. I'm not sure my internet's going to like that at the moment, but yeah, those are basically the two differences. Photoshop course for free. I can recommend a cheap one. There is a website and it is called Udemy. They quite often have special offers. Oh, that's not supposed to be like that. Interesting. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So udemy.com, and if I put in Photoshop, they've got free courses. I've got like a free course on, and sorry, not free, but cheap, like 20 quid. And sometimes they have special offers, obviously not today. It's one of those slightly weird things where I think sometimes maybe through adverts or something, they'll have special offers and they'll be much cheaper. So Photoshop, 99 quid, not bad. Photoshop in depth, 50 quid. Learn Adobe Photoshop from scratch, you know, and they're rated by other people. I've actually signed up to a Photoshop course on here. I've only had time to do about 3 lessons because I kind of taught myself it. So yeah, I would say that is a good place to start, and actually a good place to learn anything really. They do, if you're near central London, what is it called? CityLit, the college. Yes, Alex, yeah, it is. It's a massive difference in price. Yes, wait for the special offers. They're crazy cheap when they come on. But yeah, the CityLit evening courses I think are quite good. And I actually know that they did have a Vectorworks course on there as well at one point. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that.
I mean, Fiona, presumably at the moment, absolutely everybody is deciding to upgrade their computer skills and things like that.
I like to think so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, what I want to do, I've been really busy. I mean, I'm kind of complaining about it because really I want to just do what everyone else is doing and sit in their pants and read. But actually, I've been really busy. But I have plans to put together an online SketchUp course. And I kind of have got it so that the first one will cover just creating a model, drawing up, design, get plants in, make it all to scale, then do one with some Photoshop and do one with terrain modeling. But I just need to find the time to do it and record everything. But yeah, there are actually, having said that, there are some SketchUp courses on here, not specific to landscape design. A lot of carpenters use it and kind of technical stuff. But yeah, there are courses on SketchUp on there as well. Are there any more questions? I kind of think this sort of covers everything. No, you can unmute yourselves if you want to. Maybe I'll put my camera back on. Where are the buttons?
That was great. Thanks, Fiona.
Brilliant. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure whilst you're in lockdown, I'm sure if there's people that want, you know, extra time or whatever, and if anyone has got very specific questions, then do feel free to hang about and ask them. You know, completely fine by me to spend a bit more time.
Can I just say a big thanks, Fiona? It's really great for, you know, just to give a kind of overview of those different packages. So, you know.
Yeah, it occurred to me, I know when we were talking, I was suddenly like, God, I could just show SketchUp and get them all at the same time. I mean, AutoCAD is the only alternative to Vectorworks. And there are studios that know it. And if some people do know AutoCAD from previous jobs or whatever, you know, AutoCAD is great. SketchUp, there are other rendering packages, but I think in terms of ease of use, SketchUp is like by far the easiest to use. Yeah, no, hopefully that kind of makes it clear.
I mean, I don't know how many of you have had to go with my kind of just advice on how to do a planting plan using PowerPoint, but it is perfectly possible to make a very professional looking planting plan using just PowerPoint. So, you know, it is one of those things that you have to kind of work out why you're doing your drawing and then whether the different packages are actually going to be helpful for you.
Yes.
The other thing that the other kind of big caveat that I have with IT is that particularly I would say people of my generation tend to be extremely over optimistic about IT, and they kind of see it as absolutely solving all of the problems of the world, and it's going to be faster, and it's going to mean that they don't make any mistakes, and it's going to look ever so professional. And my experience really with IT, particularly when you're starting, is that it actually is very slow and pernickety, and that to some extent is the nature of, you know, doing planting plans, doing garden design. They are actually quite detailed, you know, thoughtful practices, and it takes quite some time. And so there are really no easy shortcuts, really.
Yeah, what you've just reminded me, Sophie, what I will also say is you are never, ever, ever going to design in Vectorworks or in SketchUp. You see a lot of students who, this is a London college problem, they teach them SketchUp first. So they do hand drawing and SketchUp, and there's a lot of people who rush straight into SketchUp because they think it's going to save them time, but it doesn't, because they haven't resolved their design issues. So don't think that this is ever going to be a substitute for pen and paper, you know, because you're always going to be like sketchy, sketchy, sketch. No, you know, it's a process of refining your ideas, and there's absolutely nothing can beat pen and paper. What you're basically doing, and what I do certainly in Vectorworks, is essentially copying stuff. You know, when someone sends me a sketch like that, that's like the pinnacle of my creativity in Vectorworks, because I get to decide the dimensions, you know, and do the, you know, bits and pieces of the layout. SketchUp is created in a way because you're modeling, but again, you want to have your design done, because otherwise what will happen is you're going to be limited by what you can and cannot do in that software. You know, so if you can't draw curves, you're going to do, oh no way, I'll just do rectangles. So you may not necessarily be solving the problems with your design. Yeah, basically just think of those, they're tools to kind of copy stuff up essentially and make them look nice, but you'll always be designing by hand.
I think, can I just say something, Sophie?
Yeah, of course.
One thing that I've come up against time and time again is trying to figure out the exact, well, there's so many choices that you need to make a decision about what you're going to use for what purpose.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting those things right, because, for instance, if you're doing a planting plan, currently using Vectorworks, but I haven't quite worked out how to do all the plant information on there that will then go to the plant suppliers. And it's things like that. It's trying, you can cut corners a bit by enabling those things to work for you. And I think sometimes it'd be nice to have a little bit of guidance in terms of which ones work best. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. I mean, Vectorworks is the only piece of software that I'm aware of that is generally available, that you can actually, you know, add a plant list to, that it will kind of automatically link your drawing and your plant list. So to some extent, there's not that much choice really.
Right.
The thing about Vectorworks that it's a problem that I have with it, and it might be a little bit finicky of me, but basically what they do is they, I can't remember what their source is for their plant information, but it's not that good. So they'll often have, you know, slightly odd dimensions for plants, and they'll have, you know, you know, that's one of my biggest problems with Vectorworks really, is that if you're using it as a shortcut to make kind of planting decisions, you're relying on information that isn't, that I don't always agree with. And for some people, they probably don't mind that, but it's the kind of thing that just I find very infuriating. So
I don't think I was meaning planting decisions, but more plant information. So to, you know, to go from your planting plan to then your to your client and then to your supplier, you're creating lots of lists, and
yeah,
it would just be nice to know, you know, what's the best way to do that.
I mean, so as far as I'm aware, I know that there are some other programs kind of similar to Vectorworks, but I don't think that they're very easy. You know, they just haven't got that kind of market cover. But basically, Vectorworks is the only thing that you're going to get plant lists that it
And
will
shoot, I guess.
from.
Okay, thanks.
There is on Shoot Gardening. I have a feeling Shoot Gardening have some kind of function to do planting plans.
Yeah, they do. Shoot do.
But whether that's a viable alternative, I couldn't tell you.
Shoot, we've worked with Shoot to create their planting program, and I might be wrong about this, but though they've got plant lists and they've got a facility for doing a kind of IT planting plan, the planting plan is basically aiming to meet the needs of students who find the technicality of Vectorworks too much. So it's very much a very, very simplistic version of that. And I don't think they automatically link up, but I might be wrong about that.
I think they're trying to get them linked up, but I haven't looked into that yet. Okay.
No one else.
Any more question? Is there another question? Sorry? Or was that
no, just chatting about 3D Studio Max, but no, cool.
Now, Fiona, I hope there was just one drawing I wanted to share with people before I finish, if that's okay, because otherwise I'm going to have to set
Yeah, no, go for it.
If that's okay, I'm going to say
thanks, Fiona.
But yeah, before I go, I just wanted to say thank you so much. That's really, really helpful. And just
thank
to
you very much.
Recap on what Fiona was saying, we will try to organise a kind of face-to-face thing later in the term, so you get the opportunity to actually properly meet Fiona and have a bit of a play around using our computers at college. Fiona, I don't think we don't have Photoshop on the
no. Oh no, the computers at Capel, it just is an ongoing saga with me and Andrew trying to get them improved enough. I mean, there's a bit of me, I was just going to show you Ellie who's asleep. There's a bit of me who is hoping that they will take this time without any students to completely upgrade the computers and we'll get back and they'll be amazing, but I'm not sure whether that's a reality at all. I suspect Martin's probably just having a nervous breakdown somewhere. So no, there is no Photoshop or SketchUp on the college computers. And the Vectorworks that's there is 2016, which is actually quite a bit different to 2020, what with it being 4 years old.
Thank you. I'm not sure that, oh, actually, perhaps I can share a screen. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I'm not sure that I can actually.
You should be able to.
Yeah, no, I can. I think what my problem is that I'm not sure that I have opened my opened the thing first, which I've got to do. So I'll sorry about this, everybody. Right. Okay, I hope you can see this. Alex asked me earlier for how you might draw a container and plants within it. Alex, are you there? Is anybody there?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah. Here are three approaches that you could do, which is you could have some smaller plants and label them just like you would a normal plan. You might have a larger, you know, shrub, just one, and then you'd obviously label it like that. And sometimes, you know, in the situation of drawing a container, I'm kind of happy with you doing a slightly more kind of free form image that kind of represents what you're anticipating that your plant's going to do. If it's going to kind of froth over the edge of your container, then you might be able to express it by using an image like that. Does that help?
Sophie, cross in the middle, what's supposed to mean?
So that would be the plant center. And normally, you know, if you're looking at a planting plan, you'd have a little kind of cross in the middle of it.
So it's supposed to be small like this one, yeah? It's supposed
yeah,
to
that's right. Well, this one probably is a little bit extremely small, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that helpful, everybody?
Sophie, what if it is a container filled up with tulips?
Yes, thank you, Sophie.
If it's just done with tulips, then I'd probably either do, you know, say you had 10 tulips in, and tulips are something that I would tend to do using a symbol, so a little, you know, triangle or something like that. And then I would just fill up my container with, you know, 10 triangles and, you know, label that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Right. Well, thank you, everybody. I know it's quite kind of intense thing looking at the IT that is available, but hopefully that was a helpful, you know, kind of view of what is around. What my plan is really is now to do individual tutorials with anybody who wanted to discuss things. And Danielle, I know that I was going to have a tutorial with you, but basically I'll do it in order of people emailing me. If you could possibly email me your phone number, I'll phone you up. But equally, if you wanted to do a Zoom session so that you can share screen, I'm very happy to do that as well. And I'll set up a meeting, not this one, I'll set up a new meeting if that's what you want. Okay.
Sophie,
thank you.
Sorry, go on.
Ina, go ahead.
Okay, so in my case, I would love to share the screen and to show things which I really don't understand. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to explain on the phone. So if you don't mind.
That's absolutely fine. Ina, if you would, what I might try, if there's more than one of you, I'll set you all up in Zoom sessions, kind of one after the other, and I'll give you the same link to the Zoom session. But probably what I'll do is I'll do that towards the end of the afternoon, so as I can have you all in a chunk and you'll all have decided by that point that you want to go on Zoom. So it'll probably be between kind of from about 3:15 onwards, I'd expect.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Until end of the afternoon. Yeah. Until 6 o'clock.
So probably not till 6. I've got other admin to do, I'm afraid.
I mean up to 6 o'clock. Sorry, from 3:15 up to somewhere there.
Well, I mean, basically, I'm going to try to do it, you know, in the normal teaching day, so kind of 4:30 kinds of thing. But you know, I'll basically be around for as long as everyone needs to see me.
Excuse me, Sophie.
Yeah.
Hi. Do you have? I'm not able to take a call or this afternoon after, well, sort of now. Do you have any other availability over the next few days or before our next session next
I mean,
week?
basically, I teach every day, I'm afraid, Lulu. So I'm not around between, you know, kind of in the daytime. If you wanted a session in the morning, I could probably do you one between about 8 and 8:45 or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Or is email okay if I can correspond
Email's
via?
also great, or else I'm around on Mondays as well, kind of. So I've got an admin day then, so I've got a bit more flexibility then.
Okay, so if I email you and then perhaps we could
set something up, definitely.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Yeah. Sorry. About previous assignment, you gave us feedback on the shady border.
Yeah.
But do we get, you know, what you would normally put on the FC2? Are you going to send that?
I'm not going to do a very full one of that, because I did give quite a lot of feedback to everybody, you know, kind of on the phone. So I'm going to do a little bit of a kind of that one. I'm going to say really we covered it on the phone.
Okay.
But on your plant associations, I haven't received everybody's all, but probably within the next week, when hopefully I will have got most people's and will have finished marking them, then I'll email those to you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sophie, can I ask something?
Yeah.
You, on the Moodle website, you've put up the teaching material for weeks 11, 12 and 13. A lot of us missed week 10, the Italy and England Renaissance period. Are you able to pop up your PowerPoints for that? Yeah,
no, I'm really happy to do that. Yeah, that's no problem at all. What I'll do is I'll put it as a week 10, okay?
That'd be brilliant. Thank you.
So it's there for you.
Because that's the one I really, really wanted to.
Oh, what a shame. Yes, I will say, in fact, there were more of you in on the Wednesday. By Friday, there was literally nobody.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Sophie.
Yeah.
I know you. Sorry, it's Sarah. I know you put up the doing the PowerPoint planting plans on Moodle, and I kind of had a look at it. But from what I could see, was it kind of works when you've got sort of square or rectangular shaped borders. But if you've got an oddly shaped border, like our public planting border, how are you supposed to be able to draw that out on a?
It's not brilliantly easy. What people do is you would often use, you know, the kind of scanned version of the image that I've given you already.
Right.
And you can you know, scan that into your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And then you can draw over it, which means that you can kind of do that much more kind of manipulation with it if you want.
Okay.
And if you're going to use tools to draw with, then what you basically do is insert shapes. And there are a number of different tools that you can use, not loads to be honest, but they do actually work relatively well. So there are ones that give you a kind of, that you can use your cursor a bit like a pencil. There are other ones where you can do dots and you kind of do click, 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 and it'll kind of either give you a curve between your clicks, or it might give you straight lines, whatever. So you can kind of, really do quite a nice image with it, but you have to experiment a little bit with it, basically with the lines and shapes in the kind of toolbar.
Okay.
You're going to have a go at for the for insert shapes, basically.
Okay.
Hi, Sophie.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Mel. Just last time we spoke, I think I asked if you could let us know that you'd received our work. So for the plant associations.
Right. I must say that I did try to do that. So I did kind of go through all of my emails that I'd received. And
you can't. Okay, I didn't hear anything back, so that's what concerns me that you haven't got it.
I'll just check yours, Mel, because it might have been that yours just fell through the gaps.
Okay. Thanks.
So Mel, is it the plant associations that you sent me? And you
I can just resend them if you want.
Oh, don't worry. I mean, hopefully I'll have got them, but I'll send you an email if I haven't got it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think I heard back about mine either.
I haven't sent any feedback for plant association. Oh, sorry. Whether you got it or not?
Whether you managed to receive it or not.
I'm going to just because I've got
same here actually.
I have received. Wait a second, because I must say I haven't received that many. But Sarah, I have got yours.
Okay, thanks.
I think probably.
What about mine, Ina?
I have, and Mel, I have got yours as well.
Okay, thanks.
Ina, I have got yours.
Have you got mine, Ali?
Ali.
Thank you.
Ali, did you send them